Good morning. Just sort out my cables. Yeah, good morning. How the devil are you doing this Friday? Going to say a very quick good morning to Mr. Dan Cullen, to Mr. Gary Muirhead, to Mr. Chris Ford, and to Mr. Kerry Jones. Good morning to you one and all. Hope you're all fit well. Hope you all had a good weekend. We're going to start with some bad news from the world of demolition. Surrey-based Waldridge Group, or Waldridge Contractors rather, has become the third demolition company to slide into administration in as many months. I was tipped off that all was not well a good few weeks ago now, but the situation actually became official today. The company joins McCormack Demolition and Squibb Group in the demolition Deadpool. The details, I literally found out about this half an hour ago, so the details are pretty thin at this point, but if you would like to know more, you can head on over to demolitionnews.com and we will do the best to keep you up to speed with all of that. But obviously commiserations with everybody involved in Waldridge Contractors. 3 months. I don't actually remember it being that bad in 2008, 2009, so yeah, not looking good in the UK demolition industry at the moment. Now, I remember when my weekends were filled with parties, booze, and hangovers. These days, they seem to be an endless round of chores and what I can only describe as school time. If I'm not reading, I'm writing. And if I'm not writing, I'm trying to teach myself something new. This weekend, Apple Notes and Apple Reminders. Rock and roll, eh? All that being said, I am becoming strangely productive, and my latest weekly column dropped just this morning. As regulars on this show will know, it's a familiar subject. The article is called "The Aftershocks of a Demolition Death." And should you be inclined to read that, you can do so using the link that I'm about to post in the chat, just as soon as I can get there. I'm going to say good morning to Jim Turner, who's just joined us as well. I will be pressing the respective buttons for everybody in just a moment. Just one other very quick point. Mouse has just gone berserk. One other quick point. Today's episode is the first of our new look show. After a lot of consideration and discussion, we've decided that this day in history section has run its course. At least it has for now. We've had a bit of a reshuffle, and basically so we can get into the show a bit more quickly, but also to make space for our mystery machine section, which seems to be quite popular. We'll come back to that in just a moment. And in response to Andy Darvell, good morning. Just seeing you join us in the chat. You will recall on our free-for-all on Friday, we did ask what would you like to see on the show, and we came up with a few ideas, one of which was to do the Craic, actually feature some of you guys on the show, talking about the industry, how you got into it and that kind of thing. There was a call for bloopers, so I'm on the lookout for that. But the other one was this. Yes, the Saturday Social, calling for that to come back. Now, it was called to come back basically for one time a month, and I do love a bit of alliteration, so my plan is to make that the second Saturday Social. So the second Saturday in every month will be a Saturday Social, which means that this coming Saturday will be a Saturday Social month, or a Saturday Social show. So if you've got nothing better to do on Saturday, then please let me know what you can do. It's a good question. Do you think embodied carbon debate is having an effect on the demolition industry? I certainly don't think it's helping. And good morning to Mark Whiting. You see, it would, and I do intend to do something about this, and I've already started to make some notes on it. It is tempting to think that perhaps this is down to financial mismanagement or greed or whatever it might be. When you've got 3 back-to-back, all in different bits of the country. I mean, McCormack is over in the Emerald Isle. When you've got 3 back-to-back like that, you have to say maybe this is a wider issue that we need to worry about. And, you know, is it because main contractors and clients are driving down prices? Who the hell knows? But as I say, I am planning to do a bit more on that. So watch this space. Don't forget our weekly column. Did I post that? Did I post that? Let me have a very quick look. Yes, I did post that. So without further ado, blimey, my mouse is on a real go slow this morning. Yes, without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. It is Monday, the 5th of February. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, we're going to be meeting a very happy LiuGong customer. We're going to take a look behind the scenes at the Magni telescopic handler factory over in Italy. We're taking a closer look at the electro-hydraulics built into the latest generation of case wheel loaders. And we're hauling with Rokbak. Plus, we're going to be looking ahead to Internat 2024 in the company of the mighty Liebherr. But before we get to all of that, we do need to address the small matter of our latest mystery machine. So let me bring up the appropriate animation and I'll reveal all. Well, I won't reveal all. I'll just reveal a little bit immediately after this. Yes, it is Mystery Machine time. I'm also going to say a very quick good morning while I'm about it to our friend Mick Saunders and to Ken Hatcher, who have just joined us. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. So, Mystery Machine, get your eagle eyes on. I'd like you to tell me what this is. Yes, doesn't give a great deal away, does it? What I am looking for, as always, is make and model. Now, I can tell you there's probably 6 or 7 more slides to bring you of that. But if you keep your guesses coming in, and the first person that gets it, well, you go away with the pride of having been the first. So just keep the guesses coming in, and we will keep it going until the end of the show. And I have to say, I have deliberately made this one a little bit harder than usual, purely because you got them all too easily last week. I'm going to say good morning to our friend Mick Norton, who's just joined us as well. So while you're mulling over what that mystery machine might possibly be, Andy Darvell says it's definitely a 180. Jim Turner's gone one further than that and said Hydramec backhoe loader. You know, I said I was going to make the thing last a little bit longer. Not sure I'm going to now, but there you are. That's your biggest clue. Gary Muirhead says Hydramec 102B. It is not. Hydramec 102. It is not. But you're so close, you would not believe it. While you're figuring that out, let me roll the question of the day. Yes, our question of the day comes from our resident quizmaster, Gary Muirhead, and it is this. This is Gary's first question of the day this year, I think. If you won big on the lottery today, I realise there's not a lottery today, but if you were to win big on the lottery today, what would be the first thing you would buy? Personally, I'd quite like a dedicated studio where I could do this show, record podcasts, host meetings, get together with my fellow content creators. But what about you? Let us know in the chat. And I'm going to tell you, lots and lots of people saying Hydramec, you're right. Lots of people saying 102, you're wrong. You've got the right make, you've got the wrong model. But if you can keep those coming in, sooner or later, somebody will get it. As I say, lots of people getting the manufacturer right. They're just not getting the model correct. And I can tell you now, this bit always makes me worry because I've written down what I think it is. But so many of you have said something else. I'm now starting to doubt myself. I tell you what, just to be absolutely clear, let me just have a very quick look. I need to go and scan ahead to see exactly what it is. I'm fairly sure I've got it right, but just to be absolutely safe. Oh, oh dear. Nobody has got it 100% right. But what I've got written down isn't right either. But you're very, 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 very close. That's all I can tell you. I'm just going to make sure that nobody else has got it right. No, you are unbelievably close. I'll tell you what, just to make life a little bit easier, let me bring it up on the screen. There's a little bit more. I'll tell you what, there's a little bit more still. If that helps at all, probably not, but we will keep that going until somebody gets the right answer. Now, let me take that off the screen and let me get this show. That's not what it says. However, I think it's a matter of semantics on this one. So I tell you what, I'm going to call Gary Muirhead the winner on this one, because it is actually, as listed here with me, it is a Hydromech HMK 102B. However, they do have a model called the Alpha, and that to me up there, I don't know if you can see that at the top of the cab there, that is the Alpha sign. I think Gary Muirhead has won today's Mystery Machine. Anybody's got any answer, any question about that? Take it up with me afterwards. But in the meantime, I'm going to take that off the screen. Congratulations, Gary. And let's have a bit of this. It has been a wee while since we featured LiuGong on this show, and I have absolutely no idea why. The company has been very, very quietly establishing itself as the most successful of all the Chinese excavator brands right here in the UK, and it has done so by collecting some very good and very happy customers along the way. Take a look.
The business has 220 employees. We have 9 quarries, 77 trucks, and we turn over 25 million across the group. The 10 years with LiuGong have been exceptional. They've been relatively flawless. The product has looked after us very strongly. Our people have accepted now that there is another brand in the marketplace that can be respected and can be relied upon, and we look forward to many more years of using their product. We appreciate the value of customer service, and that is what Brian and his team have been trying to install from day one, is to give the customer the service and the support for their product, where it doesn't matter what time of day or night or what day it is of the week, the support is always there. I find that LiuGong UK do try and go that little extra mile. The operators themselves have taken to LiuGong really warmly. The operation, every time a model changes, they see the benefits, they see the improvements, and they see the improvements in comfort as well, which is so important, because the operator is the fleshy thing that has to make it all work. In the past 10 years, going from basically a zero known brand to where it is today, I would like to see the latest figures, because the team at LiuGong UK have continued to branch out, reach out to people that are big users and in big numbers. And I would say that both in wheeled loaders, excavators, LiuGong now are probably ranked in the top 3 in the UK, I would have said. Yeah, LiuGong is obviously a Chinese, and you immediately recognise LiuGong as being Chinese. And there are many other products made in China that don't have the same quality. And unfortunately, early on, probably 10 years ago, those ideals were actually saying, well, it's Chinese product. You know you're not going to get the service, the reliability, and the value for money. Whereas in LiuGong product, we certainly have. If anybody was considering to change their plant and equipment, they must look at LiuGong right now. They're as good as any other worldwide brand. There is no question that they match and meet all the requirements of the operator, of the owner, and of performance. And I have no hesitation in recommending LiuGong to anybody, because they are that good.
Pretty smart, eh? Did have, I don't know what that is. There is a problem in AKK. Does that say? Not entirely sure. That some outfit says Dan Cullen, and Gary Muirhead says, I see Fox Group has 7 sales depots in the UK, including one in Edinburgh. In actual fact, I was speaking to them on Friday last week, oddly enough, just by some sheer coincidence. If somebody could let me know if you're hearing me loud and clear, I'd like to know. Mick Saunders says, not good news about Waldridge, and I don't think they will be the only ones this year. This is how, unfortunately, this is how a journalist works. I have here in front of me it's not exactly in front of me, it's on my computer. I've got a list of companies that I've been informed are teetering on the brink. A lot of that is down to mischief making, their local competitor making it known that they believe they are in trouble, but there are several more that are, I know, to be teetering on the brink, but never good. And I always try to take the positives from these things. In that, with the demise of Squib Group, as an example, there would have been a lot of very, very good demolition workers who went out into the marketplace and possibly helped improve other demolition companies. But 2 in the southeast in as many months, not good at all. Not good at all. Okay. There is a problem in the UK at the moment. Lack of reliable fitters, even. Yes, indeed, that is the case. And I know we complain a lot here about what are we doing to bring people on board as operators and construction and demolition workers. What are we doing to encourage fitters? I don't remember seeing anything anytime in the recent past. Anybody's got any thoughts on that? I'd love to hear from you. Now, let's have a little bit of this, shall we?
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Obviously, we all love the sexy machines and the sexy applications in which they're used, but you lot also seem to like a peek behind the curtains to see how and where machines are made. Last week, we took you for a spin around the Craic factory. A couple of weeks before that, I think we went to XCMG, and today we're going to trace the source of those damn fine Magni telescopic handlers. Here we go. I have to say, I'm a huge fan of the Magni lineup. Telescopic handlers with a bit of Italian flair. What's not to like? A Magni, if you're watching. I'd quite like to have the Magni factory experience as well. I'm just throwing that out there, just so you know. Let's crack on. Okay, people, tis time to take a closer look at the latest generation of wheel loaders from those fine folks at Case Construction Equipment. Now, we've covered the machines themselves previously, so this time we're going to focus specifically on the electro-hydraulics built into them.
A number of electro-hydraulic features have been introduced on the Evolution range to make the work of the operator easy and effortless. The Eco mode, for instance, will ensure a considerable reduction in fuel consumption and noise by automatically regulating the engine speed and pump displacement, optimizing the engine effort. Usually, Eco is somehow perceived like less performance. Well, with Eco mode activated, the Evolution compact wheel loaders will deliver the usual top engine and hydraulic performances, reducing at the same time the unnecessary emissions and consequently the cost of operation of the machine. The Cruise control allows the operator to set a constant speed during the on-road travel, also under creep speed movement. Always with the aim of reducing the effort of the operator, the return to dig option is now complemented by return to travel, and the two automatic movements can be combined for an easier operation of the load-unload phase. Also, a return to height function is available to complete the mix of automated settings of the load around positions.
Took the opportunity for a quick change. Wore the jacket this morning because I thought it looked good. Sweating golf balls in here, I am. It's very, very warm in here today. I don't know whether it's warm outside or whether somebody's cracked the heating up in this place, but whew, glad to get rid of that. Now, I said we'll come back to that one at the end of the show. In the meantime, shall we have a little bit of this, maybe?
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
It is truck time once again. So let's go hauling with the fine folks at Rokbak and one very satisfied customer.
We primarily wash sand and gravel through a CDE wash plant, mainly for the local market. Here on site we've got two RA30 Rokbak dumpers that we operate. They're roughly doing between 25-30 trips a day.
We are actually loading premium ballast, which will be created into building materials. It's currently going up and down for the passes to feed our hopper, which will go to our main plant for ballast.
The Rokbaks that we've got are integral to our operation. They're not too small, but they're not too big. With the constraints that we've got on some of the roads, they do suit our needs, and we find them efficient, easy to operate.
It's got the performance and it's got the efficiencies that you're looking for when you're performing these type of operations, as well as the manoeuvrability that you need on site, and also working through the wet conditions and the poor ground conditions. It's got the pulling power and the rim pull that's required to do that.
They're very operator friendly. We've got two dedicated Rokbak dumper operators on site. The feedback we've got from them is very, very positive.
A personal preference is the rear view camera. Very clear and also adjusts to weather conditions. For the summertime it's essential you have good aircon, which for the Rokbak is excellent. It's like a whirlwind going at you.
You come to sites like this, you meet the people using the machines, and you actually see the work and the benefit that they bring to the businesses and also the wider construction world itself.
The Rokbaks have been fantastic, extremely manoeuvrable, operator friendly, great torque when moving through clay. We find them a real benefit.
Yeah, great to see a British-built product being so well received. Now, I don't actually think that Rokbak is exhibiting at the Internat show, but I'm pretty sure they will be at Hillhead. I'll catch up with them there. And speaking of Internat, yeah, Internat is likely to see 2 or 3 brands jockeying for position as the biggest draw at the show. We showed you what Volvo has in store last week. Caterpillar, through its French dealer, will have a big presence. Komatsu also has big plans for the show, which we'll be sharing with you very, very soon. But even though they will be holding back some news for Bauma, as they always do, Liebherr is also looking to make a big splash in Paris in April. Now, I do need to get this off my computer, so let me just have a look, see if I can find that. It is this one.
Clarissa, I'm Head of Public Relations at Liebherr, and we are looking forward to meet you all at Internat. What we would like to do at Internat is to specifically address our French customers, our French partners, because as I said, for us, France is a very important market. Bauma is for us at the moment where we show our new machines, where we show our innovations. What we would like to do at Internat is to show what we can do for our customers in France. So the machines, the solutions that are important for our people here in that country. This time at Internat, for the first time, we won't structure ourselves in product segments, but we will show different topic areas to the visitors. So what we will mainly show is our development work around drive technologies, around digitalization, as well as our comprehensive service portfolio for France. And as I said, we will have a whole topic area at the fair within our booth that covers that topic, drivetrain technologies. And what we will mainly show is, of course, electrified machines. We will show hydrogen solutions, and we will also talk about, as you said, alternative fuels. So in terms of exhibits, we have a focus on electrified machines because this is where we are very advanced, where we have a lot of machines to show. But on the other way, we also have a theme pavilion there where we'll show other solutions, because it's not only about electrification for us, it's also about different solutions, just like hydrogen, just like alternative fuels. For us at Liebherr, it's always important to show the whole range, what we can offer at the moment, what we are working on. We have electrified machines at the moment. This is important for our customers, but we have more to offer. We are working on hydrogen solutions, as we have shown at Bauma, our first crawl excavator equipped with a hydrogen combustion engine. So this is important for us to show the whole range and to show what we are working on, but without focusing too much on a specific drivetrain technology. I think there will be a lot of highlight machines actually, but one highlight machine could be our newly launched electrified wheel loader. That was launched 2023, October. So that's quite new, and we will show that for the first time at an international fair at Internat. So we are all concerned by digitalization, by digital processes, digital products that are coming up. We are all concerned by that whole topic, reducing emissions. How can we do that with our machines? How can we contribute to that? And this is exactly why we have chosen to take this approach, because this way we can create an overall experience, not only in different product segments, not thinking in different Liebherr societies, but really having that global approach that covers all the important topics that we are currently working on in the construction machinery sector.
Yeah, Dan Collins just said, looks an awesome show. It will be an awesome show. It will be an awesome display on behalf of the fine folks at Liebherr. Gary Muirhead has asked, is JCB going to Internat? While that film was playing, I had a look. They are not listed as an exhibitor at the moment, which obviously is disappointing, but maybe they'll be at Hillhead. Maybe they're saving themselves for that. Not entirely sure. But I am, just as a very quick reminder, this time next week, I'll be bringing this show to a fairly brief and sudden halt, because the plan is to jump in the car immediately afterwards, because I'm heading up to JCB. So I'll be asking about their exhibition plans for the year ahead while we're there. Dan, you've made a very good point about all things in the state of the UK demolition industry. I'll come back to that after the chat, because that is about it for the main part of today's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I hope to see you again very soon. Ideally tomorrow, that would be good. But if you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around, because I will be back with the Craic immediately after this final word from our key show sponsor. Yes, had to change the glasses. Can't see a damn thing. And it's not helped by the fact that apparently those are absolutely filthy. Didn't realise it until I was trying to read. Now, let's get some music going, shall we? Let's have a bit of that. Turn it down. Good morning, everyone. How are we today? How was your weekend? Peter McKenna is here, and also has a new logo by the looks of it. New logo for Peter McKenna. Morning, Peter. Right, go back to the very beginning of the chat. There's a lot of that. Who was the first off the line this morning? First off the line was Dan Cullen. Morning, Dan. How's the job hunt going? Hope you're doing okay. Hope you've got lots of inquiries. Hope you get yourself back in the saddle very, very soon indeed. Gary Muirhead, the provider of today's question. And it did make me think. Depends. I guess it depends how much you won on the lottery. If it was $1 million, probably just pay off bits and pieces and take it a little more easy than I do now. If it was 10 million, well, that'd be a whole other ball game. Would I buy myself a car? Probably wouldn't. Although, an Audi R8 would look very nice on the drive. That's assuming I stayed living here, but we'll come back to that in just a second. Dan says, looking forward to another fabulous show. I'm sure there'll be one along at some point, Dan. Not a problem at all. Chris Ford, good morning, comrades. He says, like the Russian that he isn't. Fight the good fight, may no building stand in the way. Quite right. That's a good way to start your Monday morning. Kerry Jones, morning, Kerry, all the way from Welsh Wales. And I know Ken Hatch is here as well at the morning. Well, you look different this morning. Yeah, well, yes. I've been keeping my real wardrobe under wraps, to be perfectly honest. It's a bit of a problem working at home. The temptation is to throw on a pair of tracksuit bottoms and a sweatshirt and just come and sit here like I normally do. Today, last week, I jazzed it up a bit. I thought I'd jazz it up a bit this morning. Turns out I'm a bit previous with the jacket. The jacket was too much. So hot. I was sat here like this. Jim Turner's in the house. Good morning to you, Jim. There is, as I say, if you're a regular on the show, you already know the story behind this. It's called The Aftershock for Demolition Death, and it was talking about the fact that very, very tragically, the daughter of one of the guys that was killed at Redcar, Teesworks facility at Redcar about 4 years ago, has now passed away as well, aged just 34. And it did occur to me, you were here when it happened live. We were talking to Natalie Huxtable, whose one of her brothers, Chris, was killed at Didcot nearly 8 years ago now. And since that happened, she has lost another brother, her only other brother. So in 2016, Natalie Huxtable had two big brothers. Today, she has none. Can't lay the blame at the foot of Demolition entirely, but let's face it, without the demolition industry, Chris may still be here. Andy Darvell, yes, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Sad news about Waldridge. It is sad news. Listen, it's always sad news. There is only one demolition company that would amuse me to see collapse. I won't bore you with that, purely because the guy that runs it is an absolute tool, but that's a whole other story. But always sad to see a company go. I mean, apparently Waldridge had been in business for about 50 years. And I have to say, I did run some checks on them back end of last year because I'd heard a few whispers and a few rumours. And then a couple of, maybe a week ago, maybe a little bit more than a week ago, I was tipped the week that some of their guys had been sent home from site. And, the rumours were circulating and nothing was confirmed. And then lo and behold, here we are this morning. And yes, they are going into administration. Terrible news. I hope all of their employees find themselves alternative employment very, very quickly. Gary Muirhead asked the question, do you think the embodied carbon debate is having an effect on the demolition industry? It is having an effect. I don't think that is enough to drive companies out of business at the moment. I mean, there will be less work because there's going to be less demolition. It really is as simple as that. And the very fact that, as I questioned over the weekend, you'd have to think that the National Federation of Demolition Contractors and the Institute of Demolition Engineers are basically asleep at the wheel. There is a whole conversation going on about embodied carbon right now, including some of the biggest names in the trade association field within the built environment, and they're not even part of the conversation. So that is going to be a concern. We'll come back to some of the suggestions, and I know Dan Cullen has got a point about clients and main contractors. I don't think they're helpful, but I also wonder about the timing of this. We've lost three, McCormack Demolition, Squibb Group, and now Waldridge, effectively just as the post-COVID dust has settled. So I think a lot of demolition companies run to pretty tight margins. if you've got lots of things that you need to pay for, be it machine men, insurance, fuel, and all of those kind of things, you need that money to keep coming through the door, keep coming through the door, keep coming through the door. And obviously we had a period of best part of 2 years where there was less of that. I realised we were all granted you were all granted key worker status, but keeping those wheels turning was not as straightforward during COVID. And I wonder now if some of that is coming home to roost. I know that Squid Group said that the effects of COVID and a move in the scrap prices was the reason for their demise. I don't know whether the same applies to Waldridge. Don't know if the same applies to McCormack. What I do know, as I've already said, is my list of my industry watch list. Those that I've been told are not in particularly good health at the moment. It is getting longer and longer. As I say, everybody at Waldridge, I sincerely hope you find alternative employment very, very soon. Good morning, Mark Whiting. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let's have a look. The question of the day came from Gary Muirhead. Over the Christmas period, I actually sat down and I came up with 35 questions of the day, and I've still got some spares, but I thought this would be a good one for today, and I've stolen it from Gary because he's come up with about a dozen of his own. If you won the lottery today, I realise it's a Monday, I know there's no lottery, but what would be your first purchase? And I looked around. I don't particularly want a car. My wife's got a car and I use it from time to time, but I don't need a car. Would I not want to move house? Maybe, but again, if you're going to, it wouldn't be your first purchase because, buying a house would take months. So I was actually thinking, what else would I like? And I have to say, if I could wave a magic wand to have a dedicated studio, probably about 4 times the size of this, with different cameras and different lighting and all that kind of thing, so we could do a whole lot more. Also get some of our fellow content creators, Peter Haddock, Nick Drew, Steve Williamson, all of these people, actually get them in the same room at the same time, get you guys along, actually have a meeting space somewhere. I was going to say fairly central. There's no point in being central. I want it close to me. So it would be in Surrey or thereabouts, but I would love that. But we'll get to your suggestions in just a moment. Let's have a look. What have we got? Dan Cullen, I believe rates will go down as many operatives are coming available. It's relentless at the moment. It does feel relentless. And again, because I only had 20-30 minutes in which to respond to the news about Waldridge, I've not had a chance to go back and thoroughly research this. But my feeling is that we've lost 3 companies since November. And as I say, my gut feel is that's a higher rate of attrition than we had in 2008, 2009, depths of recession. So yeah, it really isn't good out there at the moment. So if you are currently employed, you should be very, very grateful. Not that you should be grateful for being employed, because you earn your keep, but there's a lot of people out there, and now a bunch more. I don't know how many people Waldridge would have employed across the board, because apparently it's Waldridge Contractors and Waldridge Ecotech that have gone into administration. So 2 companies, and I think it's the groundworks and the demolition plus the environmental bit as well. So it is going to be a fair few people, unfortunately. Ken Hatcher has got the rain. We have no rain here at all. Bright sunny skies out when I looked out earlier this morning. Mick Saunders is in the house. We'll come back to Mick in just a moment. Who else do we have here? The other Mick Norton is here. Good morning, Mick. Andy Darvell. The beginning of the guesses on our question, or not the question today, the mystery machine. It was, as we discovered, it was an HMK 120 Alpha. It may be a B Alpha. The Hydromech numbering system, not the easiest to get your head around, but there we are. Lots and lots of people saying. Gary Muirhead was snookered, I think is the word, by predictive text. I'm sure he meant Hydromech, but it's come out as Hideous 102B. I don't believe that to be hideous at all. And there you are. He got closer and closer, and then in the end he got it. And now Mick Norton, on the question of the day, what would you buy? Your first purchase should you win the lottery? and he would buy an incinerator for the begging letters. Do you get a lot of begging letters, do you, Mick? Does that mean you've got a lot of money? Would like to send me some, would you? There we are. That was probably the winning answer. Hedronic HMK 102B Alpha backhoe loader. That is precisely what it was. We mentioned LiuGong, and I see Fox Group has 7 sales depots in the UK, including one in Edinburgh. Yeah, they phoned me out of the blue on Friday last week, which was quite nice. Haven't spoken to them, I was going to say, in quite some time. I'm not entirely sure I've actually spoken to the person in question ever. But yeah, I had a fair old chinwag on Friday, which is always good. Dan Cullen saying there is a problem at the moment. There most certainly is a problem at the moment. Not good news about Aldridge, and I don't think they will be the only ones this year. Listen, I as I say, my watch list is growing longer, and I heard literally an hour ago that one of the biggest names in this industry in this country has run out of cash. Yeah. Again, I'm not going to name them because it's an unverified rumor, and I don't do unverified rumors. But yeah, that's what I'm hearing. There is a company, as I say, one of the very, very biggest, and they've run out of money. Again, what does that mean? Is that I cannot believe that 4 lots of financial mismanagement could occur simultaneously as they appear to, or 3 have, and possibly another one. So what is the wider issue? And I think the wider issue is the way that the industry works. It is as simple as that. Late payment, non-payment, retentions, people driving down price. And I almost wrote something about this, but I think the moment's probably passed. Remember a couple of weeks, it's more like a couple of months ago, when the house builder Vistry went to their supply chain and said, regardless of what we're paying you at the moment, we would like a 10% discount. And to my mind, in my belief, that is a breach of contract. You've agreed a price, but now you're asking for a 10% discount. But even setting that aside, what does that tell you about a company? If they need a 10% discount, then surely they are not able to function on the prices that were previously agreed. Does that not hint at a degree of insolvency? I'd love to get your thoughts. Now, somebody has just sent me an email. I want to let me have a look. Yeah, somebody sent me a. No, I can't even see it. It's no. Somebody had sent me an email last week, and it was embargoed until today, and it was talking about mental health in the industry. And I've made a decision. Mental Health Awareness Month I think it's in May this year. And I'm not doing it. I am going to draw a line in the sand, and I'm not doing it. And that's not because I don't care about people suffering with their mental health in this industry, but because I'm now of the belief that 99.9% of all of this is utter bullshit. If the industry were actually serious about the mental health of those working within it, they would have changed the working practices that are causing the mental health issues. They wouldn't be posting social media posts. They wouldn't be telling you about their mental health awareness. It's like saying accident awareness. We're aware accidents will happen. Stop them. Do something that avoids them. And I did a post on LinkedIn over the weekend. If you want to stop falls from height, change your working practices so people aren't working from height. If you want to stop people being run over by excavators and dump trucks, change your working practices so that people don't interact directly with dump trucks and with excavators. And if you want to stop people taking their own lives within the field of construction and demolition, change your working practices. It's as simple as that. So I'm saying this publicly, and I'm going to do something about it closer to the time. If you're a demolition company, a construction company, a construction equipment company, and you're planning to send me a press release about your mental health awareness, don't bother, because I'm not buying it. I'm not having it any longer. The only way we're going to change things is a change in the working practices, and all of which comes back to Waldridge. The chances are the reason that Waldridge has gone to the wall after 50 years is not any kind of financial irregularity. COVID won't have helped. I take that on board. Maybe some shifts in the scrap prices won't have helped. But the absolute truth is it will almost certainly come down to the fact that they've had to wait and wait and wait for money to pitch up. So, Mental Health Awareness Week, I'm out. If any company has done something, if you've changed the way that you work to make sure that your workers are getting home to see their families more, if you're doing something to take away the stress from them, I'm all in. I'll be all over it like a bad soup. But if you're just going to send me a press release saying that you're mentally health aware, poke it. One other thing, and it's just occurred to me while I was saying all of that. I realise I have a football analogy for everything, but there is a thing that happens in football where a team is going through a bad time, can't string a couple of results together, a bit like my beloved West Ham, and the football managers seem to fall into two categories. There are those that basically go on TV and lambast and criticise their players, increasing the pressure that they're under, and there are others who will stand up and say, the losses over the past 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks are down to me. The players are working hard, they're doing everything they possibly can in training. Well, we've got that same situation in the field of demolition and construction. Rather than being pressured into then pressuring your employees, we've got an entire industry now that if a client or a main contractor says, we want this job done in half the time that you said it was going to take, rather than saying, well, it's not possible. That's not possible. It will be unsafe and it will cause undue stress on our workforce. What they actually say is, yes, sir, we'll get that done right away. Enough. Yeah, Dan Cullen says, companies are finding it hard to find mechanics. Hadn't heard that, but I wouldn't be at all surprised. Hitachi are getting bad for service and repairs due to the issue, he says. Jim Turner, on our question of the day, says he would buy the neighbouring land to ours, would be the first thing I'd try to buy, and then the next parcel over to that too. Jim Turner, land magnet. Good luck to you, mate. Footy likes the Magni, very good machine, as good as JCB, or even better, quite possibly. Hot little machine, says Dan. Can't remember if that was related to the Magni or the case. It's one of those. Gary Muirhead, what can we put down to the state of the demolition industry? Why is there so many companies going bust? Is it badly managed, lack of work at the moment, or the knock-on effect of the CMA? Okay, so McCormack and Waldridge were not CMA related, so that's not the case. Lack of work, quite possibly. Are they badly managed? Well, it would be easy to sit here and say, if one company goes out, the bosses were greedy, they were siphoning off the money to fund their footballer lifestyle. You could say that. But 3 in succession, and there's no real evidence that with at least 2 of those that was the case at all. So it does make you wonder whether it is just the way that they are being required to work, or whether there is just a lack of work. I know, listen, I speak to demolition companies all the time. I spoke to a couple on Friday of last week, and they are all saying, it is quiet out there. It's quiet out there now, but bearing in mind, you don't go bust overnight, generally. So the problems that have caused the demise of Squibb, McCormack and Waldridge will have been built up over months and quite possibly years. So, we are potentially stemming back to COVID and all that went on there. Chris Ford, I can only assume that either his wife isn't tuning in, or He's a braver man than I am. What would you buy if you won the lottery? He'd buy the wife a suitcase. Seriously, nothing more than a hot chocolate. I'm normally too bright to buy one, as I think they're a waste of money. I'm going to note in my diary, Chris, next time you and I are together, I'm buying you a hot chocolate. Just to show you what you've been missing. I'm sure you know what a hot chocolate tastes like, but I'm buying you one. You have my word on that. Dan, I am inclined to agree with a lot of this. I feel major contractors and developers are the cause of the problems. They're not paying subcontractors on time. No, they're not. And that's bad enough. That's bad enough. But as I've said, when you've got a situation where they move the goalposts, we want you to do this job. We've agreed you're going to do this job for £1 million, and it's going to take 7 weeks. And you turn up on site, and the first thing you're told is, actually, we want it done in 4 weeks, and that 1 million we've agreed, we need a discount of 10%. What's going to give? What's going to give? Dan enjoyed the Rokbak. Ken Hatter reminded us, Gold Rush only like Volvo dumpers. This is true, but are we taking the word of an American on truck? I have to say the Volvo truck is the creme de la creme, but you get the idea. You'll certainly see some tractors in Paris with the farmers protesting there. Yeah, I was already planning to go over by train. We did it last time for the press days a couple of weeks ago, and it was an absolute joy. Didn't particularly like the queuing at St Pancras International. That was a bit of a ball ache because there's not enough seating there. Typical thing. They've got a train that holds 500 people. I'm making the figures up. They've got a train that holds 500 people, and they've got seating in reception for 200. You get the idea. However, actually getting there, getting back, I'm going by train. French farmers, if you're listening, please don't picket the train line, because that's going to be a pain in the arse. Mick Saunders, with his lottery money, he would start a company and only have ex-forces veterans working for it. Imagine how efficient that would be. Imagine how efficient and disciplined that would be. None of this, I can't make it into work, I had a bit of a bender over the weekend. They would be there, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed and on duty. I think you've got a good point there. And I know there are a few companies, Armac Demolition is one. They've made a point of seeking to employ ex-forces, but also some ex-offenders as well. Is JCB going to Internat? As I say, I've looked at the Internat exhibition list and I can't see them there. They may be a latecomer, they may be listed under something else, maybe a French dealer, but I don't think they are. Didn't see them at all. And again, JCB have been very, very selective over their exhibitions over the past couple of years. They bailed on Bauma, so maybe they are being a bit more selective. I will ask the question when I'm up there next week. Dan Cullen says, I think developers should be held accountable for the demise of companies. As it starts at the top, expecting companies to pay 20 plus staff weekly for up to 60 and 90 days is unbelievable. Unbelievable, and yet we have allowed that to happen. So much of what I believe to be wrong with this industry seems to stem from our modern inability to say no. All that I've said about mental health and health and safety and all of these things, and about 0-hour contracts and self-employed operators and operatives having to work through agencies. If the 3 million odd people that work in construction said, no, not doing it. You pay me my sick pay, you pay me my health insurance, you pay me my holiday pay, you supply me with my PPE, you take care of my training, because I'm very good at what I do, and that's the way it's going to work. Instead of which, as almost to a man, the industry just went, self-employment, all right then, we'll do that. And exactly the same as Dan has highlighted there. We're going to pay you on 60 or 90 days. No, you're fucking not. No, you're not. Go to your local shop and try and buy a pint of milk and say, well, I'll give you the money in 90 days. You'll be arrested. There you are. Dan Collins says that looks an awesome show. He's talking about Internat. It will be an awesome show. And again, I realise it's a cost. I do realise it's a cost. And I realise it's not convenient for everyone and everything else. But this is the closest major international exhibition in the world for us here in the UK. Yes, we've got Plant Works. It's pretty small by comparison. Hillhead, pretty small by comparison. Internat is a major, it's not a Bauma, it's not a Conexpo, but it probably comes a close third, I would have thought. You have the opportunity to go and see a major international exhibition, and you could do it there and back in a day. You could have an early start and a late finish, but you could do it there and back in a day by train. Into London, on the train, bosh, you're in there. Peter McKenna, there you are. Morning, all he says. He also says, can't get in and out of Paris at the moment. My mate's sat outside the borders waiting for the roads to open. Yeah, they don't mess about, do they? Question of the day. Second thoughts. I'd sell my company to Mick. It's a good idea. Dan Cullen's got to start in the East End of London. Was on this job in 2022. Good luck to you. God's country. Peter says that's discrimination. I'm not entirely sure what that was referring to. Okay, I think I do know. Yeah, we're talking about Mick and his forces only. I couldn't give a damn, mate. At least I would know they'd have my back and I theirs. Ain't that the truth? Andy Darvell, question of the day. Apparently, I wasn't aware she was up for sale. And I've got to be honest, if she were, I'd be in the bidding. Question of the day. If you won the lottery, what would you buy? Apparently, Andy Darvell would buy Keira Knightley, even if it was just for one night. Just have a meal and a conversation with, obviously. Yes, much the same as I used to buy Playboy for the articles. I get where you're going. Peter, I may well have looked dapper, but I couldn't make it last. It was boiling in here. There's a lot of heat here. I've got a light, 2 monitors. Obviously, there's a central heating system here as well, although it's quite low, but one way or another. Just heat upon heat. Question of the day, Gary Muirhead. First thing I would do is smash the alarm clock. I'll not need that anymore. And also look after my family and friends, including all of you lot. Well, in addition to praying for me to win the lottery, Gary, I should be praying for you to win it as well. We've had that conversation in here, in this house, about who we would give money to. Obviously, I've got 4 kids, so, to set them up would be quite nice and so on down the line. And, every once in a while I think, it would be quite nice to give some to so-and-so. And then they'll do something. It's like, nah, bollocks. They ain't getting a penny. I don't know. I blow hot and cold on it. Dan Cullen, my first buy would be a few houses, a few locations, then a few machines and trucks. It's not the carbon that's doing it, it's companies and developers holding things back yet. But again, I take your point, Dan, but it is that some are holding it back. I mean, we're obviously pleased to see that the Ringway demolition up in Birmingham has now got the green light, which is good news for the West Midlands demolition industry, because that's going to be a fairly big job, whoever lands that. But it is slowing work. When you've got, like we've got, there is an appeal going on, but like we've got with the potential demolition of the flagship store of Marks & Spencer on London's Regent Street. It was on, it was off. It was on, it was off. And now apparently it's probably completely off. But all of that, that is a job that could well have been either done or being in progress now, and it's not. If the demolition industry is struggling at the moment, why doesn't the government give them a tax break on the fuel costs, just like the forestry and farming industry does? Because we're too small. Demolition is too small, and we don't matter in the way, less so forestry, but certainly farming. Farming ultimately, and you can see that over in France, farming has ultimately got us by the short and curlies, and rightly so. They feed the nation, and they deserve and should get special dispensation. But if you're a farmer, you've got the nation's testicles in your hand. If you're demolition, you're just a tiny little blot that nobody cares about. So, not going to get that. What I would say, and this is another thought, if the current situation in demolition is reflective not of financial mismanagement, not a reflection of scrap prices, not a reflection of COVID. Bearing in mind that demolition is basically the industry's first responder. So we live on an island, we have finite resources, we have finite space. So if an awful lot of demolition, probably 85-90% of demolition, is taking down something old to make way for something new. If there has been a downturn to that degree in demolition, what does that mean for construction? Does that mean that there are construction projects that are going to be waiting? Just a thought. Nick Saunders was working last night at the yard, noticed a lot of non-ferrous in the storage area, then looked at prices and they're dropping again, but iron's a little higher. Yeah. When you change working practices, the proof is in the pudding, is what happens after the change. No change equals whatever changes you made didn't work. But that trying to get to the bottom of the root cause of a situation. You know, we've already said about, you know, what is the cause of 3 demolition companies going to the wall in the space of 3 months. Could be COVID, could be the way that they're treated, and all that kind of thing. But going back to working practices on site. I said this the last time I was in Italy with Stefano Pansieri of Despo. If you actually really were desperate to ensure that there was never another fatality on a demolition site, one answer: take all the men and women out. Automate the whole thing, you know, autonomous machines, remote control machines, whatever it might be. Don't have people where there is demolition, and you would become accident-free, fatality-free overnight. Simple as that. We've had this discussion before with, you know, you think about the average house building site. You know, bearing in mind I lived on a house building site while my previous house was being built. You've got our house was the first in basically a U shape of houses to be built. Now, had they had the good sense to start at the far end and built that house first and then work this way, there was an entrance at the far end led out onto a main road. So all plant and equipment could come in there and you could work on the first house, and then, you know, people that were actually doing sort of the painting and decorating, the landscape gardening, they would come in afterwards. Instead of which they decided, no, actually what we'll do, we'll have all the plant going past every single house all the time, you know, skip loads of material, whatever it might be. So you had industry disciplines, painters, decorators, landscape gardeners, plasterers, and all of those kind of things were basically working with plant fizzing past them. Stop that, plan the job in a different way, allow the time for that job to be completed. You know, build a house and then move on. Build a house and then move on. Yes, their houses would take a little bit longer, but as a result, nobody would be run over by a telescopic handler and nobody would die. Is that not a pretty good idea? And I've also been thinking about this. I know there's been and I'm going off at a tangent slightly, I know there's been a bit of a backlash on all things related to electric construction equipment. And I realise to a large degree some of it will just be a stopgap until hydrogen arrives in the way that we all hope it will. But part of the issue seems to be, you know, we can't have equipment that doesn't work an entire day because we can't charge at lunchtime because that's not how. Let me be very clear about what the alternative is. If we don't make that one minor change, extend our lunch breaks or change our working structure so that there's a half-hour break in the morning, half-hour break in the afternoon, whatever it might be, if we don't make that fairly minor change to our working practices, some of us will be underwater in the very near future. that one fundamental change, tiny change, rather than taking 20 minutes for lunch, you now take 80 minutes to make sure you've got a full whack of juice in your machine. And we're only talking about the first generation of electric machines. Give it another couple of years and those electric machines will run a whole day, much the same as your iPhone. I don't have to charge this every day. My first one, I had to charge it every couple of hours. That's going to come. But our alternative is being underwater. We need to take these bloody actions, people. Now there's a plan to take pics of the data. I don't know my tractors. I get confused enough with plants, to be perfectly honest. Not only are companies paying staff, I also pay for offices, plant removal and yard, fuel, insurance, so many underlying problems, and they can't pay you on time to keep going. Yeah. When you think, you think about the cost of fuel right now. You think about the cost of insurance, both of which seem to go up on an annual basis, if not sooner. It's hard enough paying for those things anyway, but if you've got to pay for those things while you're waiting for your money to come through, what do you do? What is the effect on the workforce? What do you do? Well, you've done the job, but we can't pay you because we haven't been paid ourselves. So we'd like you to go home, put your feet up, twiddle your thumbs, and we'll give you a call in 60 days when we've been paid, and you can come back. You can't run a business on that basis. And yet that seems to be what the major contractors and the developers seem to intend. Footy says, just talked to a company, looks like Wednesday I'll be going back for an interview. Our fingers are crossed for you, my friend. It's the same here. There's up to 6 offices up for demolition near me. Been going on for 3 years now and still no luck. They are going to get stuck. They are going to get stuck. And all... I didn't arrive for today's show feeling ranty, but I'm suddenly overcome. There is a thing that we do in society now where we jump on excuses. I've said I've got a football analogy, so I'll start there, but I'll quickly get over that and I'll come back to something else. The rules in football changed a couple of years ago because there was concerns about head injuries and concussion, potential brain damage. So we've now got players who are very good at cheating. Let's make no bones about it, they're very good at cheating. So if there's a challenge in the penalty area, both defender and attacker will fall on the ground holding their head, trying to win a penalty, but also because there is such a focus on head injuries. Going into the workforce and bearing in mind, I've already said about mental health awareness. Having been there, I'm very aware of it. But I'm also aware of how it can potentially be abused. When I was at work, I'm at work now, but when I was employed, you had people, I've got food poisoning, I can't come in today. I've got a bad back. None of which can be proved, but that's how people extended their holidays back in the day. They felt a bit rough on a Monday morning. What have I got? Oh, I've got a headache, I can't go to work. Now it's the mental health card. And I have a friend who works for a local authority. And they had a new employee. Was migrant. Let's put it like that. I'm not going to get into that, but they were migrant. And they arrived, did a couple of weeks, did a bit of probation at work, and then all of a sudden they would start to arrive for work half an hour late. They'd take, rather than the allotted hour for lunch, they'd take an hour and a half. And sometimes when my friend went to their desk at 4:30 in the afternoon, they'd already left. So they were summoned in for a meeting, and the meeting started with, you have working hours, at which point the race card was played. You're only saying this because I'm... No. There are other people from exactly the same part of the world as you who come in and they arrive at 9, they work from 9 until 12:30, they go for an hour lunch, and then they leave at 5. So that's not the case. So the whole meeting fell apart because they were claiming racial prejudice and everything else. Next thing, they received a letter to say that the person wouldn't be coming back, but expected to be on full pay because the meeting had unhinged their mental health. Yeah. Just saying. Let's have a look. If you're to fully automate sites to offset humans being injured, I would start with the housing sector, which is an accident waiting to happen in perpetuity. And bearing in mind, they actually have the capability. In many, many ways, they have the capabilities. Obviously, we've talked about robot bricklaying machines in the past and that kind of thing. I watched the thing over the weekend very, very quickly. But apparently you can not, I don't know whether it's available in the UK, but you can now buy from Amazon, of all people, a flat-packed house. And the thing arrives in an Amazon box. And, I mean, it's big. It's way bigger than this room. But it arrives and it is lowered onto your concrete pad. Okay? And it is a shape. But then you take it out of the box, or you take the box off it, should I say, and then you fold the sides out, and all of a sudden the whole thing is like 3 times the size that it started out. But there is no actual, there's no diggers on site. Yes, it was lowered into place by a crane, but there's no diggers on site. There's nothing. We've got prefabricated coming kit. We don't actually need to put people at risk. And if we are going to stick with, as appears to be the case, if we're going to stick with traditional construction methods, then what say we just take a look at a job? And I have to say, I think a lot of this comes down to greed, and greed then leads to desperation in the workflow. Although they deny it, house builders do have a nasty habit of sitting on plots of land until the price goes up to a level that they are happy to sell at which point they suddenly say, okay, well, we've got this plot of land, we can probably squeeze in 40 new homes, let's call it 45 just to be on the safe side, and we need them built in the next 4 weeks. Anybody sensible would look at that and say, actually, it's going to take us 8 weeks, and in order to do it safely, we need to do it in this sequence, not willy-nilly people working all over the place. We'll do the actual erection of the house, and then that will move on. And then while the next house is being built, somebody's in there plastering, somebody else is in there painting, and the landscape gardener, and we'll do it like this. Instead of which, it's a free-for-all. Everybody turns up at the same bloody time, and they're all getting in each other's way. And I'd love to see the stats, and I don't even know if the stats exist. I wonder if there is a stat out there of the number of people that are injured or killed on demolition and construction sites because of an unfamiliarity with the working practices of an allied discipline. If you, I'm just going to throw this one out there purely because it's come into my head. If you're Andy Darvell, when he's on demolition, spends most of his life looking up because he's on a high reach excavator. If you're a piling contractor, you spend most of your working life looking down because you're digging holes in the ground. If you're a piling contractor working on a site where you've got it entirely to yourself, you can walk around looking at the ground, no problem at all. If you're a demolition contractor working on a demolition site and you're spending and you're on your own, you spend your entire time looking up, not a problem because you know what you're doing. You put those two together, and all of a sudden, you've got people looking in the wrong direction. Just saying. And please bear in mind, I am but a journalist. I am but an onlooker. I don't have any influence over this, but even I can see there's got to be a better way. Liken it if you will. We've all seen plenty of cooking shows on daytime TV and nighttime TV. Imagine if rather than they have the, what do they call it in restaurant terms? The pass. So imagine that you've got the guy that's making the salad working by the deep fat fryer, who's also manning the bakery section, which is at the other end. So you've got this narrow space, and everybody is bumping into each other and getting each other's way and spilling hot oil on each other. And instead of which, sequence. Not hard. I am going to address this one. Mick Saunders, did West Ham turn up for the game yesterday? Just asking. No, by all accounts, they did not. I think we all agree we don't want to see fatal or non-fatal accidents on site. We as humans have a flaw. We are prone to accidents. Mick Norton says accidents are waiting to happen, no matter what we put in place. To a degree. If you wanted, if you genuinely had the will, you could eliminate 99.9% of accidents. You know, you think about it. You know, the biggest killer in this industry for the past however many years falls from height. Well, here's a thought. Don't have men and women working at height. Devise a different working practice that means they stay on terra firma. Don't put them up in the air. Then they can't fall and they can't die. And then you've saved, you know, I think the last set of industry fatalities was 45 people in a year. Maybe it's now 30. You've reduced it by a third. Like that. Just by saying, no, that's not the way it's going to be. Jim Turner says the whole way the housing industry works is backwards. We start as principal contractor, then sign the whole site over to the developer. As soon as we hand the first few plots back, then we come under their rules. A better way would be to hand the site back in stages, say block 10 houses. That way we'll be working inside our own site with our own people that understand our danger with plant. Jim, I tip my hat to you, and I'll go back even further. You know, I mentioned about the different disciplines working alongside each other. When my house, we bought a house off plan, whatever it was, 25 years ago. We would go and see the house being built because, you know, we'd never done it before, and, you know, there's a fascination seeing your house come together. And, you know, we would arrive and we'd be handed a hard hat. Somebody would open up the hoarding and you'd walk through, and, you know, there's telehandlers going about. Now, thankfully, you know, I do what I do for a living. I kind of know what a telehandler could do to a human were you not paying attention. But myself, my wife, and 4 very small children, I mean, in actual fact, Fred at the time was probably a baby in arms, walking around a construction site. Now, I'd requested that, stupidly, perhaps, but that was allowed to happen. Is that a good idea? I don't think it is. This mental health is a major problem, major cause, excuses, yeah. Let's have a look. Nick Norton, I would buy out CSCS and call closure on this Quango the very same day. Wouldn't that be a marvellous thing to pull off? Has anyone ever heard about the, the rapper, 50 Cent? Apparently he has an ongoing dispute with a fellow rapper, guy called Ja Rule. I know nothing about hip-hop music, but I did hear this and it did make me laugh. He's got this ongoing dispute with this fellow rapper. So 50 Cent, who is minted, I mean, the guy is absolutely made of money. He bought the first, I think it was like the first 10 rows of seats at a Ja Rule concert and then didn't go. So Ja Rule came out on stage and the first 10 rows were completely empty because his rival had bought up all the tickets and didn't turn up. I like your idea, Mick. Buy out CS and say, right, I own you now. Closed. Dan Cullen says, have a fantastic day. People stay safe. Yeah, please do that. Be happy. He also says our biggest killer in this industry is stupidity of some people. That doesn't help. That doesn't help. But again, I would like to suggest that the biggest killer in this industry is our inability or our unwillingness to say no. In order to do this part of the work, we need you to work at height. No. There's got to be a better way. You know, in order for you to do this job and complete it on time, We need you to work in very close proximity with 15 wheel loaders that are fizzing about the place. No. Get the wheel loaders to finish what they're doing, and then we'll send them in. No. Nick Saunders says, have a good day, gents, and as always, stay safe. The hound needs to cock his leg, and the pub opens at 12. Getting used to this at retirement life. See, there's a man that's safe within the industry, unless something untoward happens to him or the hound between now and the pub. Have a good day, Mick. Thank you very much indeed for being here. So yes, I had no intention of ranting today, and I've done precious little else, so I apologise for that. But it does get my goat. And as I say, part of what got my goat was this poxy press release talking about mental health. Oh, mental health. We've done mental health awareness, and we're aware of mental health. Yeah, what have you done about it? What have you done about it? It's like going out into the street. Imagine a local authority gets a phone call that says there's a missing manhole cover. Some scally has decided, I'm going to sell that for scrap to pay for my drugs habit. So he's had it away with a manhole cover, and there's now an open manhole in the middle of the street where, you know, it could cause an accident with a car, a pedestrian could fall in it. And out comes your local authority person who writes a report that says there's a missing manhole cover. We are aware. What does that actually do to prevent an accident? Nothing. All it does is cover his arse to say, I am aware. He's not made the problem any better. He has not prevented an accident. He's not made it safer for pedestrians or for road users, but he is aware. Awareness, 'tis bollocks, I tell you. Awareness is not the answer. You know, it's the same as I'm very, very sorry that somebody died in this construction accident. Sorry ain't good enough. Mend your ways. Mend your ways. Dan Cullen says, have a great day and have a Guinness on him. So you're buying Mick Saunders a Guinness, and apparently I'm buying Chris Ford a hot chocolate. How old are we, Chris? Quite old, I think. Right, people, I've done enough ranting. I'm going to go and do something else. I don't know. Go and calm myself down. Go and take a long hot shower or something like that. Everybody, I'll be back here again tomorrow, 10 a.m. sharp. I hope to see you then, when hopefully I'll have calmed down. Can't promise, but I'll do my best. Till then, everybody have a fantastic day. All the best.